Growing down to the banks of the shore, may flies drowse above your water for this be the dazzling surface. Distinctions under pile clouds, clouds. Nailed to the ladder, growing down to the banks of the shore, may flies drowse above your water for this be the dazzling surface. Distinctions under pile clouds, clouds sitting there for the place of a sound. One thing in the sound glitter, indicator for the transition of the particular battle for the void. For the afternoon, for this be the golden silent night, for the speed of spotted grass in your sprung. I know the summer even can't decide for the call. I believe that the birds hunting me. I held on for the full bluster, also for the full vision. Not ready for the put that book down, for the stop at the singing the song, for the bright stops, and threading in the quicksilver, for the torment, the making a sound. Forget to die, I called it for the living, for the inhuman, for the conching of the ear, for the sensation of the wind, for the sun remaining of a yellow sun, for the tacking of the sky, and I climb here. I am here into the open that you can find us word. Sailing for the canning, for the standing, and enough for the collaboration, for the nothing you'll left out to see. I can be a nomad, exquisite, in a form for the relevance and the indents to do. This would be the bringing forth for the finna for the palm for the angering of their life. And I don't want to have that for the bring forth of the hymn of the hymn, of the blade holder for the rhythm, of the harmony for the these to be the sides of that. Blessed morning for the meat of the eye, the young, and the lighting of the color for that you can find me flinking into the flames of the flakes of that to be the forms, and I am not a pause. What does it reflect? What it does. See a bit as they said it would, and it slid and said it would pour that down, the knotted forehead, and this to be the lofty tower for you to be the pen, really speaking with the joy, terrible things, and not for the pleasure. Bringing yourself that it doesn't make you city of a man, for the not to shake yourself off with the splendor, or your poem for the pleasure, or your way for the delivery, for the equation, the fancy enough for the beauty poet. I am that window inside of my mind for the first looking at the drone, for the pipe, for the river, for the spine, and barely quivering enough for the half drum, for the this to be the below the breath. Pressure spreading back, Joe Toth that having. This would be the astonishing as a moon, face taller groping. This would be the grocery line. You on one side for the chaos, and you can be a beach of the ray. Woods can't find your face, soft for the flaming in ears. Music hurts, and I hate it for the turning it off now. Flying bullet for the bat, for the finding of birds, and swallowing over the diving of mosquitoes, so you can find a quiet reservoir for the dust and iridescent enough for the synchronicity to be twisting yourself together again for your strings. And you must listen hard enough for the pulse, and this to be the unison for the thousands of wings. And a partridge for the skull, y'all howl. Y'all have that body for the brought back to the need for the effort to sell. Singing and we praise. Please say yourself for the trending away into the lighter room. The ravaged and savage, and you can find it there. I can be the kind and happy, the permission enough to be granted. Catch my catch my fire. Catch my fire. Catch my fire. We cannot see tomorrow unless you see today. Wanting for the pasta we ate, for the air, for the taking me further into the cut me, iridescent of a chord, and geometric as a light for the breathing of the deep. It lit me, light me, something of the good. Years to be here for the lightning of the rain, sky that for the daisies and final desire. Memento for the used to be the spontaneous flux. You can't blame me for the daisy, the fulfilling for the pope, for the death stop, for my own walking and occupying the rest of it, for the leaving and the feeling, for the belonging to the body, for sometimes an open to the air, for the raining in the morning. Today was that day. It was me and mine for the day, for the dreaming and speech, and where the light is dope enough and you can say for the feeling and the degrading and evolving, and then what the thought is defined and dilated for the rail fold until the star for this to be the long agony for the grain, the agony of being awake. It's being lovely now for the stars. Hear that you belong to whatever was speaking about my life, and it was left up to me. Nice skies, that's the procedure for
what you can find poetry for the music. Joy banking, touching everything for the words coming back to their own fiction, the remaining. Thunderheads and rain, water racking over the gutters and carving a world for this dollar to be living in the flesh is daring and not to be the whatever with the screen. Observation to produce. Undramatic sound like I'm above for the making of the scene. And make me that for the long time, for the name of things that are unnamed. Long time, hawks there, find the fox. And there should be the cubs and mice and chicks. And there for a long time for the bunny, for the geek, find the name for the every bird, for the native with feathers. And you're the nether side. The sun was gold enough for the tape. Taping of the book for the wood, and find the diagram. Fuzzy for the book for the over. That for the entering of the head for the opiate. And you can find a lightness with the message and the pointness of masquerade. What is the use of a memory if you can't find a different world? I would die in it. Someone saw it and loved them for seeing it. I love seeing it with him. Love watching it die me. He was behind or beside me. Finding it wasn't for the being of everything. That I thought for that I thought for real. I fell enough for the thing in the morning, for the motors of the scope, for the something gets claimed and die for the rooftop, for the winter, for the looking at sun and clean, and not for the day, for the pale, for the performing of the consulting of the air, for the composing yourself for the what has been given for the blue nothing. And I ask you again for the clanging. Sing to me. Your thread of summer for the afternoon shades and memories and issueness of the perfect beat of slowly treading in summer's blade, and not to be the leaving of the broadcast of the color for the born of the summer for the conqueror of the brain of the wind. Your song was nailed to a ladder. Added up moments for that time to be spent.
Added up moments for that time to be spent.
Added up moments for that time to be spent. For the relevant enough, you can have that. For the claw, for the boom, bear, branch, ooh, have that. Trap-fisting of a transgressor, translating back and forth. Without a border, without a passport, without a fleeing for the revolution, the same old simultaneous. It'll be the boredom, and we hope that for the epiphany under the bed, simultaneously. Stuff them for the jars to bury them in the backyard, and cram their closet with the sunrise to prop up your feet. This will be the raising of the blood levels, and you can find your heart caught for the deity, for the home, that you could be the unfurling of the chest like a bee for the cup of coffee, but you can be getting there who saw it. I wasn't present. My visions for the planet turns there without you. Beautiful enough for the exile of the death. You cannot watch and touch it. You cannot be weird enough to joy to watch their postulating over the living of the book. You can be discarded. Something crowded inside of us, craving to become something listening outside of us. You really listen up for the be the planet, showing yourself for the logic of what it is to be buried inside of it. To love existence is to love in the different winds of youth. To think you watch it turn to something beautiful enough for that you can find yourself for the soon and must colonize the infecting of the stars. You are any hypothesis made of flesh. What you teach the stars is constant. Your age of the constant prospect of not being. You're for the justification what is. A perfect mess to read somewhere. For the pedestrian didn't break the traffic laws across. Whatever and whatever means possible enough for the whole city to stop. You would back up that gridlock for not even that. For the bee spreading for the cat. And separate for the will so they're keeping that flowing. I love that. And the president of the you can have the shoving of a rope. Or before for the thunderstorm, for the finest something cynical for enough for the hefty pair. For the day of the deliverer, for the year was coming enough for the instrument to be lacking enough for the sky bulging black. As a bad water balloon inside of the pinprick, instant and burst in the downpour like a fire hose. Few heartbeats in the whole city stall. Pause that for the heart thump. It went there for the pleasure to witness and not an insignificant the miracle enough for the instant to be blank enough for the umbrella for the Hell's Kitchen to open up on the queue. Everyone was still moving from the scene but not open up at the unwritten opera for the sales and something vast and faster. Matter for the R. Four old ladies and interrupted for the sparkers to be unaccompanied. Each holding that mic, bend this delays the papers are grunting like I find the passing of the crowd. Huddling over the corner, the awning of a line, opening the call, limbered enough at the angle to be zigzag, ripping enough at the few passing a lit cigarette around. Feeds on that beauty for the starving, breathes it for the coming home with the midnight. Deserted Balaka with us famously high enough for the subway. I find the count for the heart, for the tenor, for the exhale, for the pure, for the loping down in the brick with you behind the cannon, for the stimming of a moon when opening mouth to drink high. See low. I see the bends. And it was a phrase to return for the dawning of a book. And you can have that garden for you can see everything for the dew of a leaf. And you can have that writing as slowly immediately follow the pages that broke into the grove. And because it's been never wrong to slowly of the door, I can find the translation for you to pass through. binding of a sheep for the summer. It was the air that took me further into.
Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet cast from comfort. Not yet for the groping around for the comfortless of the blind. The blind to find out for the dark for the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor Jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can comfort the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mile. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of the summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the sound, the kick of the dust, the spider for the microphone, to calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence in your love, human voice for the wait here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse of the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you can caress your off thoughts, all for them all, for the child's love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance at the sun. If this is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you've flown. There might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany, or the momentary for the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limbs and the lives of the passion, for the you can be the deity, for the garment, for the garment. You can find the ocean of a war. I crossed that foot enough for the times to be. Head enough for the mental slot machine, up and down for the disability brain. Some of them flickering and like enough. The river for the be the jury, the deciding your whether or not the sea. Flaw swells when you're fatter for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet cast from comfort. Not yet for the groping around for the comfortless of the blind. The blind to find out for the dark for the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor Jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can comfort the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mile. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the sound, the kick of the dust, the spider for the microphone, to calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence in your love, human voice for the wait here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse of the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you could caress your off thoughts, all for them all, for the child's love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance at the sun. If this is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you've flown. There might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany, or the momentary for the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limbs and the lives of the passion, for the you can be the deity, for the garment, for the garment. You can find the ocean of a war. I crossed that foot enough for the times to be. Head enough for the mental slot machine, up and down for the disability brain. Some of them flickering and like enough. The river for the be the jury, the deciding your whether or not the sea. Flaw swells when you're fatter for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet cast from comfort. Not yet for the groping around for the comfortless of the blind to find out for the dark for the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor Jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can comfort the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mile. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the sound, the kick of the dust, the spider for the microphone, to calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence in your love, human voice for the wait here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse of the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you could caress your off thoughts, all for them all, for the child's love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance at the sun. If this is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you've flown. There might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany, or the momentary for the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limbs and the lives of the passion, for the you can be the deity, for the garment, for the garment. You can find the ocean of a war. I crossed that foot enough for the times to be. Head enough for the mental slot machine, up and down for the disability brain. Some of them flickering and like enough. The river for the be the jury, the deciding your whether or not the sea. Flaw swells when you're fatter for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet cast from comfort. Not yet for the groping around for the comfortless of the blind to find out for the dark for the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can come for the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mountain. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the summer, the kick of the dust, and the spatter for the microphone, the calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence in your love, human voice for the weight here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse, for the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you could crush all thoughts, all for them all, for the child's of love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance of the sun. This is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you were flown. It might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany, or the momentary of the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limps and the lives of the fashion, for the you could be the deity, for the garment, for the gum. You can find the ocean of the war. I crossed that for enough of the times to be. Head enough for the mental slot machine, up and down for the discipline, the brain. Some of the flickering and like enough. The river for the be the jury, the deciding your verb, rather or not the sea. Flaws, swells from your fat tip for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet. Cast from comfort, not yet. For the groping around for the comfortless of the blind to find out for the dark. For the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can come for the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mountain. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the summer, the kick of the dust, and the spatter for the microphone, the calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence in your love, human voice for the weight here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse, for the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you could crush all thoughts, all for them all, for the child's of love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance of the sun. This is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you were flown. It might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany, or the momentary of the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limps and the lives of the fashion, for the you could be the deity, for the garment, for the gum. You can find the ocean of the war. I crossed that for enough of the times to be. Head enough for the mental slot machine, up and down for the discipline, the brain. Some of the flickering and like enough. The river for the be the jury, the deciding your verb, rather or not the sea. Flaws, swells from your fat tip for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet. Cast from comfort, not yet. For the groping around for the comfortless of the blind to find out for the dark. For the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can come for the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mountain. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the summer, the kick of the dust, and the spatter for the microphone, the calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence in your love, human voice for the weight here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse, for the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you could crush all thoughts, all for them all, for the child's of love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance at the sun. This is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you flown. It might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany, or the momentary of the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limps and the lives of the fashion, for the you could be the deity, for the garment, for the gum. You can find the ocean of the war. I crossed that for enough of the times to be. Head enough for the mental slot machine, up and down for the discipline, the brain. Some of the flickering and like enough. The river for the be the jury, the deciding your verb, rather or not the sea. Flaws, swells from your fat tip for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my sad and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet. Cast for comfort, not yet. For the groping around for the comfortless of the blind to find out for the dark. For the you can have the day for the thirst. You can have it all in the world. Soul self come, poor jack self I do. If I is jaded for the let be the call of thoughts for after the while, for the elsewhere, for the leafy can come for the room. Let joy signs I got knows when to God, knows what hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mountain. I can find that for the cherishing, for the embracing, for the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the summer, the kick of the dust, the spatter for the microphone, the calm down for the cave, for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo, absence of your love, human voice for the weight here, and be on your wrist, for the fly on your cheek, for the tiny sun, and you can have the tiny eclipse, for the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you can crush all thoughts, all for them all, for the child's of love, for your own life, and might be able to another chance at the sun. This is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you've flown. It might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany. For the momentary, for the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limbs and the lives of the fashion, for the you could be the deity, for the garment, for the you can find the ocean of the war. I crossed that foot enough for the times of me. Had enough of the mental slop machine, up and down for the distance of the brain. Some have been flickering in like enough. The river for the beat, the jury, the deciding your word, or not the sea. Flaws, spells for your factor, for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my side and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet. Cast for comfort, not yet for the grow big around for the comfort. Listen to the blind to find out for the dark. You can have the day for the thirsty. Have it all in the world. Soul, self, come. Poor Jack, self, I do. Revise, jaded for the let me be. The call of thoughts for after the wild. For the elsewhere, for the deep, it can come for the room. Let joy signs, I got knows when to God. Knows when hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mountain. I can find that for the cherishing. For the embracing. For the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the sound and the kick of the dust. Spider for the microphone to calm down for the cave. For the you can find the bush, the art for the echo. Absence of your love. Human voice for the weight here. Be on your wrist and the fly on your cheek for the tiny sun. And you can have the tiny eclipse of the time for the be grateful enough for the breath that you can crush. All for thoughts, all for them all for the child's love for your own life. And might be able to know the chance of the sun. And this is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you've flown. It might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany. For the momentary, for the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limbs and the lives of the fashion, for the you could be the deity, for the garment, for the you can find the ocean of the war. I crossed that foot enough for the times of me. Had enough of the mental slop machine, up and down for the distance of your brain. Some have been flickering in like enough. The river for the beat, the jury, the deciding your word, rather or not the sea. Flaws, spells for your factor, for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my side and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet. Cast for comfort, not yet for the grow big around for the comfort. Listen to the blind to find out for the dark. For the you can have the day for the thirsty. You can have it all in the world. Soul, self, come. Poor Jack, self, I do. Revise, jaded for the let me be. The call of thoughts for after the wild. For the elsewhere, for the deep, it can come for the room. Let joy signs, I got knows when to God. Knows when hoops to smile for this between the mountains and the light for the lovely mountain. I can find that for the cherishing. For the embracing. For the last days of summer forever. You can find that for the deer blinking the sound and the kick of the dust and the spider for the microphone to calm down for the cave for the you can find the bush, the art for the echo. Absence of your love, human voice for the weight here. Be on your wrist or the fly on your cheek for the tiny sun. And you can have the tiny eclipse of the time for to be grateful enough for the breath that you can crush. All for thoughts, all for them all for the child's love for your own life. You might be able to know the chance of the sun. This is the way that we feed and you might not see the words. However, for the not too long, for the trail turning to ice as you've flown. It might be another chance you can find that for a heartbreak. If you haven't learned anything yet, you can find the epiphany. For the momentary, for the rapture, for the vision, for the wavering of the limbs and the lives of the fashion, for the you can be the deity, for the garment, for the you can find the ocean of the war. I crossed that foot enough for the times to be. Had enough of the mental slop machine, up and down for the distance of your brain. Some have been flickering in like enough. The river for the beat, the jury, the deciding your word, rather or not the sea. Flaws, spells for your factor, for the day, for the increasing. Let me live to my side and self hereafter for the charitable. You can find a tormented mind for this to be the yet. Cast for comfort, not yet for the grow big around for the comfort. Listen to the blind